This is the Political Spotlight.
The Political Spotlight is a joke. It's more like a political flop.
Nobody listens to Bilbrey.
He's just a wannabe podcaster. No one takes him seriously.
He is a rude, crude dude that will never go any further than broadcasting from his mother's basement.
Bilbrey is a wrecking ball for Indiana politicians.
Grab another box of Twinkies and generic cola, Bilbrey.
And get back to your microphone and your audience of nobodies.
The Political Spotlight is a joke.
He is like a rude, crude dude that will never go
Bilbrey's a wrecking ball for Indiana. Shut that stupid Bilbrey up.
Oh, all right, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a long day. It's been a good day, and I've been fighting a little bit of a sinus headache, but we are here, and we are plugging right along with the candidate interviews and the news and events of the day. It is just a tick after 9:06 p.m., it looks like, Eastern on Thursday, April 16th, 2026, and we are here. We do have a candidate that will be up here and on screen, and will be engaging in a candidate interview in just a few moments. After the candidate interview, we will be talking about the statement that was released by the City of Muncie today. And we also have a new tort claim filed, or allegedly filed, in Henry County. And we'll be talking about that as well if we can get there. If not, we'll be maybe talking about that a little bit tomorrow. I know Madison County had a candidate forum that was pretty interesting and got heated at times. So we'll be talking about that in the next couple of days. So there's a lot going on, but we are giving the first portion of each of our shows over the next couple of days and weeks to the candidates that are willing to come on and talk to us so that the voters can be more informed. We are going to be talking tonight to Mr. Matt Kantz, a Republican candidate running for Delaware County Commissioner. Kantz is currently serving his final year of his first term as Delaware County Councilor for District 3. He could have filed for re-election to the district, or he could have filed, obviously, as he filed to run for commissioner in District 3 as well. And so we'll talk about why that decision was made and his thoughts about where the county is now and where he would like to take the county if he's elected. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and bring up Mr. Kantz, and we will find out what's going on here. Matt, welcome to the program.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. So I guess before we get started, for those that might be unfamiliar with you, if you want to give a little quick biography of who you are, what's going on, and go from there.
Sure. Yep. Matt Kantz, like you mentioned, current Delaware County Councilman in District 3, finishing up my last term on County Council. It's been in a good run so far with from council, and maybe I can talk a little bit more about that and some of the accomplishments that we've had on County Council. But just a little background on me. So I've been in Delaware County here for about 22 years or so, I guess, at this point. Worked here locally when I first started, but ever since then, I've been working in the healthcare technology space, working from home and traveling for the last, 16, 17 years. I started in project management. After completing my master's degree, I started in project management, working for large healthcare technology companies, electronic medical records, implementing those tools. And then I went I spent a short time away from healthcare and actually worked locally with Gary Danner for about a year and a half at Danner, building his mobile power stations and helping with some operational work there. And then back to the healthcare space where I'm in sales currently, and I basically sell into large health systems and hospitals throughout the United States. Our company, Elsevier, is a global company, $1 billion company. They're based in the Netherlands. We have a Philly office and a few other offices here. And we provide about 25% of the world's evidence-based content to doctors and nurses. So
Okay.
that's my day job. That's my real job.
Your real job. Your real job. Yeah.
So
Sure.
no, go ahead.
No. So just kind of getting going into it a little bit. I was right. You've only been serving for a term, right? This is your first term that you're currently in. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
It feels like 15 minutes with your head underwater.
Sure does.
So let's talk. I guess the first question is, obviously you could have went the easier route and just filed for re-election. And I mean, obviously that's still a fight and it could very well be, someone's undoing, but it tends to be easier when you're the incumbent. So why, instead of using that method and going that route, why did you decide to file for commissioner?
A couple different factors, but just back to why I ran for council in the first place.
Sure.
Post-COVID, my travel schedule, basically was eliminated. And so I had a lot more time to give back. And, again, being 20 plus years in this community, been really trying, serving on a few boards over the years. I looked at the council race and the ability to bring some outside influence to the council as kind of like giving back and like joining a board, and participating in trying to advance the county as a whole. So like you said, I'm successfully earned that, during that election. It has been a fast 3.5 years. We've been, I think, super productive with the council. At least I have been personally in trying to be engaged. The thing with, county government, it's, just so much different than city government. There's multiple commissioners, there's 7 council people. The council has responsibility for the budget, quote unquote, but, we're not there on a day-to-day basis. We're not managing people. We're not really having a lot of influence outside of yes or no on budgetary items. And so the ability to influence what's actually happening on the ground in county government is pretty limited for the council. Sure. And it takes a lot with 7, even though we're a 7-seat Republican council, it still takes a lot to get people to agree or to get enough votes to make some wholesale change. So once I kind of caught wind that Shannon Henry, who's currently the county commissioner in District 3, was looking at retiring, and after working alongside Stephen Brand in his campaign and trying to get him elected, that's when I decided to make the jump. I thought that it would be better suited for my skill set to actually be in the commissioner's seats, managing day-to-day activity, or helping to manage, I should say, day-to-day activity. One of my biggest, goals in the commissioner's office will be around economic development. I think Commissioner Brand has started that process, but he's only one person, and sure. So we've got a lot of work to do to try to continue with some of the housing developments, some of the business attraction. I have been spending the last 3.5 years now on the finance committee. Up until this year, I stepped off the finance committee because I've been chairing the strategic financial planning committee, which is an ad hoc committee that is made up of our auditor, our treasurer, our assessor, Commissioner Brand, myself, Eugene Whitehead, Councilman Whitehead, and previously Councilman Piper before she took a new job, and we've put in Councilman Bookout into this committee. And we've been working with Baker Tilly and now Policy Analytics to bring all of our financial, current state financials to the table, and doing a lookout for about 5 years for what the future holds if everything stays the same with Senate Bill 1 and some of the changes that are coming. So that's where we're at currently with that. But it's that's been a lot of work, all things considered. So it's above and beyond just the typical monthly meetings. And then so focus on economic development, focus on IT. I also head up our IT committee. And we've had some change with our IT support and been trying to implement some new things there. Ryan Stoltz, who's taken over that department, has been doing a really good job trying to get his hands around our technology. In order for us to withstand some of the things coming down the pike, again, assuming nothing changes, we need some more efficient processes. We need some better technology to work for us in the county if we're gonna be able to weather the storm, so to speak.
Sure. So that's a pretty good government answer to that, a political answer to that. And that's, I respect a lot what's going on there. And I know that there's a big issue with Senate Bill 1. I guess just looking at that, in the position that you're in as a counselor, or, obviously hoping, if you move into the commissioner seat, what is your plan of action, or how are you looking at what's going to be coming down the road in the next 2 to 3 years or more with everything that's going on? And what are you thinking that, a Kantz commissioner, along with the other two administration, can do in Delaware County with what we are currently being faced with?
Yeah. I don't know the complete answer. So, it's just a guess at this point, but we have some things that we need to do. We have to cut expenses. That's number one. We have to try to find, new revenue, and the only new revenue we can really bring in is, tax dollars, in a lot of cases, or, trying to, drive some economic development, because, one of the biggest hits to the county wasn't the property tax for residential, it's the property tax for business personal property. Yeah. And new investment is can be taken down to a 0% tax rate for new investments. So that 30% floor, which was we bring in 30 at a minimum. Even if you depreciate your assets down, you have to keep it at 30%. Starting now or in July, they can take that down to 0. So that's lost tax revenue on the business, business side. We've seen our property tax rate is actually lower, but we're not seeing significant revenue. So just as an example of some of the information that we've received here, our general ending balance for 2025 was about $12 million. Now it's not $12 million cash that we're sitting on. Those, that also has to include encumbrances for the year, paying all the remainder of the bills. But, during our budget, we try to maintain about a $6 million operating balance, because we only get paid twice a year. So you have to keep money in the bank to pay the bills when you're not getting paid. So we've ended the year up again. For the last 3 years, it was 9.5, then it was 11, then it's 12. Okay. Well, starting next year, it's estimated to be down to 7.8. And then the year after that, 3. And then by 2028, we're in the hole, 2 or 3 million, which means our operating balance, you add that to the operating balance. So we're actually in the hole quite a bit, potentially a lot more than that. So, we've got to get more efficient. There's going to be changes to the Senate one. They can't not fund county government or local government or schools. And so they're going to have to make some changes. Regardless, back to your question, which is, what can we do? Well, about 260 employees report to the commissioners. Okay. I want to work with Commissioner Brand and Commissioner Riggin to continue to utilize those 260 employees as kind of a use case or a case study in how we can be the most efficient in those departments. You know what I mean? Sure. Because the remainder report to other elected officials. Right. Those elected officials sometimes go along with what is happening. Sometimes they don't. The biggest thing with that right now is the 32.5-hour work week that was put into place many years ago. Yes. And has never been altered. And so if you look at the traditional work studies and you have, 5 employees at 32.5-hour weeks, and you are able to go down to 4 employees at 40 hours a week, those 4 make more money and it saves the county significant money when you take that and expand it across multiple departments. So, do I want to see head count? No. Or heads cut? No. Obviously, we're trying to avoid that. That's the purpose of this exercise, is to try to avoid that. But I do feel like we do that the county elected officials tend to think that they work for the employees and not for the taxpayer. And we have to shift that mentality. We're not here to hurt anyone or to, see people lose their jobs at all. But there's going to be some serious tough choices in the next 3 years, and nobody seems to want to make them right now. So that's the foundation of kind of where my mentality is going into this.
Sure.
It's not to change the world. It's just to continue the work. We've saved some significant dollars since Commissioner Brand's been in, because he's done detailed reviews of insurance and liability insurance and how much we're losing on health insurance, renegotiating contracts that automatically renew year over year. Those are complex things that, it's a lot for one person to have to do. So I hope to, continue some of that work and build upon that, because we have more work to do. We have more things we need to look at cutting or adding to help, save us money in the long run.
Okay. So I want one of the viewers have asked this question, and this was a question I was going to kind of ask you after we had another candidate on earlier in the candidate interview process, but kind of give you a chance to speak to it or to push back against it. The claim has been made that when we had candidate Ryan Webb on, and Ryan made the claim that since he's been gone, it seems like the council is having a harder time saying no to things. And he was somebody that was really questioning what was going on when department heads or employees were coming asking for funds. And although you're not actually running for the council still, it could speak to, your actions as a counselor, or what you do as a commissioner. So you want to kind of speak to that or push back against that? What are your thoughts on that claim?
Totally. And I love having this conversation with Mr. Webb, actually.
Yes.
And he knows it.
Yes.
Because we've gone round and around about some of this, but
sure.
There's saying no to say no, and then there's saying no when something legitimate is worth saying no to. So let's start there. But I'll give him a little bit of credence that yes, there are times where we should be pushing back harder. And when I talked about it earlier, being kind of like, you don't know what you don't know. So you've seen the budget hearings, right? And how they work, right? And that's really the time when pushing back is required. If somebody comes and they need an appropriation and it's a bill that we're going to have to pay, whether we appropriate the money today or next week or whenever, there's just some things that you get handcuffed to have to say yes to. But during budget, again, we are wholly 100% dependent on the elected official or the department head to give us the information of what they need and require and where they've spent their money and why they've spent their money. And that's about the extent with which we're making a decision on. It's like saying that, my daughter decides that, she's going to go spend $1,000 and she has a justifiable reason for it. And then she needs, additional $1,000, for this, because she had to spend that on that. And you're looking at every line item. It's a terrible process to do budgeting that way. It's horrible. In my mind, we should be starting at zero and working our way up, not here's where we started last year and work our way down. That's how currently it is done in Delaware County. That would require everybody having to justify every dollar they're coming back for. That is if I have regrets about leaving, there's two of them. One is continuing to change the budgeting process and how we approve the budget. And two is the local income tax rate being set by county council here in another year or so. And not being a part of that, but not being part of the decision-making of what our local income tax rate is going to actually be. So those are undone things as I'm, looking at this commissioner race and going this direction. But I hope that my influence in the commissioner office will be, a little more dramatic in some respects, or a little bit more fruitful, because I will be able to see kind of behind the curtain of everything that's going on.
Sure. A question that I've had, and I think it's, viewers know, I think it's pretty safe to say that you and I've had kind of a love-hate relationship. There are a lot of things that I've liked that you guys have done, specifically you on the council. And one of the things I will have to give you credit for is I was very concerned just kind of about the communication aspect of things. I will tell you, you've been very open anytime I've tried communicating, anytime I've sent emails to you or whatnot. You've always been very quick on the response. And so I do appreciate that. Whether I've agreed with things or not, I do respect that. And one of the things that I've kind of wondered about, because, I'm aware of what you do for a living, and I know that it's, you're one of those people that's like, it's, you're busy, but you have kind of some play in your schedule and whatnot. And you've been somebody that's attended, a good portion of all of the meetings you guys have had. You might have missed one or here or there, but generally when you have, I think you've done your best to either Zoom into the meeting when that became allowed, or the different things like that. So I can respect that. Going into the world of the commissioners, a little bit different than the council. And what do you say to those that ask about your time limit? I mean, what are you going to be able to do with that?
Yeah.
What's your thoughts there?
So this is probably more than a part-time job, right? That the commissioners hold. I mean, Commissioner Brand's a full-time commissioner right now.
Yeah.
And to be honest, we could probably use a county administrator to actually run the day-to-day work of us. I mean, Grant County has a county administrator. They're a fraction of our size. So we have 3 commissioners, and no offense to the other commissioners over the last however many years, but none of them have been full-time by any stretch of the imagination. So what I would say to that is my ability to get work done faster and more efficiently, I'll put myself up against just about anybody. So my time spent will be spent wisely and efficiently and doing what needs to get done. There will be times though that, I can't make meetings, or it'll be, Zoom in. There's a lot of meetings that go on that, Commissioner Brand tries to invite me to, and others to try to participate in. Some will be there, some will not. Our previous commissioners traveled. They went to visit, businesses and things of that nature. Like, I don't see a ton of that happening anytime soon for us, but I have carved it out. I mean, my wife doesn't love the idea of, losing my time any more than she already sees, but it's, we'll make it work. We'll make it work. I'll have put in more work. No offense again to anybody, but, I'll have put as much work in as I've seen done, in the last 10 years.
Okay.
I did see a question about I thought something brief was flash up around, this is relative to communication thing.
Sure. Yeah. Go forward.
You're not wrong. It is time consuming to communicate on a regular basis, right? Outwardly. Yep. I mean, on social media or whatever, it does take a lot. We don't have a communications person. We don't have a PR. We have, Kyle Johnson, who runs GIS, manages our website and social media, and it's not even really his job, to have to do that. So we don't have a lot of avenue outside of my own personal things to do that with. And it's just, it is burdensome to do. I would like to change that. And I do think that things that are coming down the pike from an economic development perspective, I think, we have to be very forward thinking, and we have to be forward communicating, because just like what would happen with solar, it's, everything happened after the fact, right? Instead of before the fact. So, whether it's data centers or solar or wind or really any other, advanced manufacturing, nuclear, there needs to be education along the way, and education is communication, and that's part of it. And I think there was a lot of, misinformation, so to speak, with solar. I was, opposed to solar in general, but also saw the need from a property right perspective to try to balance that. So the same will come with any other new advanced manufacturing. So we're going to get hit with data center, people trying to court us for data centers. We're going to get courted for, or we're going to go try to find the ability to manufacture potentially parts for data centers. Maybe we don't need a data center, but we can manufacture those things that they need. There was a big one just announced in not Crawfordsville, Pittsburgh. They're building a plant that's actually going to be building parts for data centers. And then, Commissioner Brand made no qualms about the small nuclear reactors or perhaps manufacturing things for nuclear if that push continues, which I hope it does. From a nuclear perspective, I think that's our only saving grace in the future from a power standpoint, is to continue that push to make nuclear easier to get and more affordable to put online.
Sure, absolutely. Talking about some, I guess, things that are currently going on, I think that the city and the county have probably a better relationship now and in the last couple of years than we've had in maybe years past. And that's definitely a good thing. Obviously, when the city and the county can get along and be working towards the same goal, that's a good thing. At the same time, I never have issues with the city or county pushing back against one another when it's talking about doing things for their specific citizens or their employees or whichever way. How do you look moving forward? Obviously you're looking for that partnership to continue. And we had a question, do you have issue in pushing back against the city, whether it be Ridenhour or someone else who's in the office, or I guess kind of the question there is, we get into a danger when everybody's of the same party.
Sure.
It seems kind of like we get into an issue. We're dealing with it in the state. I'm a conservative. I'm okay with Republicans being in control, but you get to a point where, it's all Republicans and nobody can disagree. What do you have to say about that?
Well, at the state level, like redistricting, apparently some people disagree. So, it was depending on what side you fall on there. So relative to the city county dynamic, outwardly everybody wants to try to, publicly be as cordial and understanding as possible. We are doing a lot of good work together in terms of, planning. So, eventually we're going to be pulling together all of the appropriate parties for this local income tax discussion. That's going to be a big collaboration effort. But there are plenty of things, that I don't agree with on that maybe the city has done and not. What I do believe in, though, is the mayor's vision for importance on things like housing. He's spot on. We have to have those things. We have to have the ability to attract higher wage workers, and they have to have a place to live, because potentially that's the only income tax we're going to be receiving one of our largest income tax will be, new bodies into Delaware County. So we do need that. And despite what, maybe the naysayers think, we don't have a plethora of housing for people to compete against the Pendletons and the, some parts of Anderson and, getting all the way down into Fishers and such. So we need that. So I do agree with his path for that. There are some things that I've disagreed on. We've offered to try to come to the table relative to Prairie Creek Reservoir, and we know that's a huge asset to the community. We really want to help, participate in that. That's been something that's been city owned for I don't know how long. And to me, I've expressed this to the mayor on multiple occasions that as long as PCR is a political arm of this area and not maybe a nonprofit or run by a third party entity, we're going to see kind of what the chaos and stupidity that comes from, any decision that's made about Prairie Creek seems to have some, monumental impact on, however many people. So we need to grow that. We need to make it all it can be. It's a huge asset for our community from an economic development perspective. So that's why the county's interested in trying to make that work as best we can. So that's something that, I haven't been really, maybe not on the same page with, there. But I mean, from a like, do I need to push back on the mayor or the city? There's not that much that we have to, interact on that would be that. Economic development's the number one, and we have Yorktown, the city, the county, the economic development assets, the Alliance and ECIRPD. We're meeting on a weekly, or not a weekly, but regular bi-weekly basis, to share what's going on and who's talking to whom and who's coming where and what are we looking at from a business standpoint. So there's a lot of open dialogue and planning that's happening too. But everyone's got their fiefdom, the mayor's got to look out for his, county's got to look out for theirs to some degree. So we're probably going to do some things in the future here that, he may not like either, or whoever comes down the pike. So
sure.
No, there's no problem in terms of, we're going to stand up for what's best.
Absolutely.
I don't think, I doubt, you know me well enough that, nobody's going to push me around in terms of that.
Yeah. So kind of staying with Prairie Creek for a moment. I've kind of always had the opinion that I think that should be a city-county joint venture, and there should be something going on there. Is there any thoughts of that? I mean, where are we at that? Have you been involved with any of that? Is there anything coming? What's your thoughts as a commissioner?
Yeah, I mean, there's been some initial. The parties have been pulled together to talk about what the future looks like, and there's a strategic plan that's being created. I think everybody will be involved in that. But again, my biggest beef on any of that is simply that it probably does need to be a third party entity or something that that could have a board that, is just, I mean, think about it. Every time there's a new mayor, we start this process over again, right? So there was a strategic plan back in 2021, 2022 that existed, and all of the parties were participated in it. All the entities, American Water, the foundations, the city, the county, everybody participated in that, and some of it's been executed on. And I do tell the city and the mayor that you should be promoting what has already occurred, out of that strategic plan. So there's going to be a reset, I think, at some point to get that finalized, and we'll participate in that. But I do think that, it would benefit. I mean, there's pluses and minuses. Don't get me wrong. We've got a lot of nonprofits in this town.
Sure. Oh yeah.
So it's, there's challenges there too, but I do think that because, again, the mayor, Dan's not going to be around forever. And, if we have to start this over again, I mean, that's tough. That's I think taking the politics out of it would be ideal.
Yeah, absolutely. A topic that's been really big for both the city and the county recently has been the flock cameras, drone activity and whatnot. What's your thought on that? As a commissioner, you'd be involved in entering into contracts for that, and what's your thought on all of that?
Well, without playing both sides of the fence too hard, I see from the sheriff's point of view and from law enforcement and public safety, which I'm obviously a huge proponent of, the benefit that comes with flock cameras. If utilized exactly the way they were designed to be utilized, they help solve crime. There's no two ways about it. However, I also am anti-surveillance state,
Sure.
And don't love the idea of having to have those, in place. So, I see both sides. The drone thing, I'm perfectly fine with the fact that they need a place to put that thing, and it happens to be going to be on the county building, because we have, better ability for that to be delivered. I don't really know how it plans to be deployed, other than in emergency situations. Chief Deputy Stanley, he manages a drone for the sheriff's department. It's utilized to find people, and I've heard all the stories about them using drones to find missing people, to find dead bodies, to whatever. So there's some value from a public safety perspective in having that technology available. Inherently I'm not for surveillance cameras. I do understand, and I do want to support our public safety leaders, and right now they're utilizing them exactly the way they're designed. That's my understanding. And as long as that continues, I think, it's got its place right now.
I think there definitely has to be oversight to make sure that, things like this.
Yeah. And there are some, Flock, the company, that's a whole nother thing. So, I have read some things that are very concerning about that, about them specifically and what's happening behind the scenes. I don't know enough about it to say, cut the cord, but it is concerning, and I don't even know if there are other options out there, to be honest.
Sure. There's a good question here that was on the screen. Why you were talking about economic development and options with that. You were talking about Delaware County and Muncie, and you brought up Delaware County, Muncie, Yorktown. What about situations going on with Daleville, Albany, Eaton? Obviously, where those places are, there's a little bit of difference between Daleville or Yorktown being closer to 69 and whatnot. But what say you to someone that's asking that who lives in Albany or Eaton or something like that?
Yep. And actually, I'm meeting with Buck Caudell, the Union Township trustee, tomorrow. And was up in Eaton, having some discussion with those folks. They put on a little bit of a forum a few weeks back, and there's inherent challenges from an infrastructure perspective in Eaton, particularly Gaston. That 28 corridor, right, has no infrastructure, basically. I've talked to Commissioner Brand and others about, he sees that as a, kind of a next frontier, where if we could get infrastructure in place, we could see some growth in that Gaston, corridor as well. So those are priorities. Albany's done a really great job in terms of, they do a lot with what they have. And one thing about Commissioner Henry being in that being in from Albany, I think he's got his pulse on that. So I'm going to be chatting with him about, what the future holds from an Albany perspective. Yorktown, they're doing their thing. They come to the table and they're letting us know what's going on. But, and we do think that we need to be, stay close in terms of, what their plans are. Same with Daleville. They've had, that stretch is seeing a boom, and there's still more to happen there. We need to, but to me, we're going to penalize, so to speak, the county, Albany, Eaton, Gaston, those type of cities, if we do nothing but try to build around 69, because we are so far off of the highway, So is it a great lead into, people coming into our county? Yeah, absolutely. Daleville's great. McGalliard, has had some challenges from an economic development perspective. They've got great manufacturing areas right there, but we don't have a lot of other, facilities or things for people to do. And 28, sees a ton of truck traffic, and would love to see 28 4 lanes, to be honest with you. So we've got some work to do to keep us off the 69 corridor and make sure that we're, focusing development in towards Muncie, throughout the surrounding counties, Cowan, some areas like that. Prairie Creek Reservoir, sitting in the southeast part of the county, is an ideal, scenario too. Does that answer that question?
Yeah. I think that's pretty fair.
Okay. Yeah, we're working with everybody. I mean, we will be working. This is not a city, city specific. there's just a different challenge in every one of those cities.
Absolutely.
Eaton had a really big challenge relative to the infrastructure. Now they've gotten some of that. We actually had a conversation about, matching grants and things that they, are they making sure they're taking advantage of? Because, they've got some downtrodden areas that need some work. So,
yeah, absolutely. So I guess just kind of before we get ready to wrap her up here, when you're going door to door and you're talking to people out there that you're meeting for the first time, maybe people that don't follow along politically as much, what's your sales pitch for yourself or your campaign? Why should people of Delaware County that maybe don't know you vote for you over, say, your opponent?
Sure. I'm terrible at giving sales pitches, believe it or not, even though I'm working in sales.
As a salesman, that's amazing.
I am about myself personally.
I
I bring, a ton of experience to this. We've got a lot of work to do to, I would say, advance the ship, maybe not right size the ship, but, get some things in place to really help us weather what could be, a fairly large storm. So I think that I'm obviously the best equipped to handle that. This is a position. This is the county executives they're called county executives for a reason. It's a leadership position. It is about that. And leadership is, I don't take that lightly. So, and I've done a lot of leadership over my time. And my resume, I would put it up against anybody who's running for political office. So, that's my short run pitch. I do think that I will give, a big effort and a huge effort into making Delaware County as good as it can be in the time that I'm here. I really,
sure.
I'm here to give back. That's why I'm running. Do I need all the headaches? No, I really don't.
Right.
I don't think anybody who runs for office needs them. It's kind of thankless. There's no two ways about it. But I do think it's important. And I think this position, the commissioner position, is the most complex and also the most complicated and the most difficult. And you really have to have, you really should have some very structured background to be serving in that role. So I think I fit that bill.
Sure. As maybe a personal favor of mine, I would definitely hope that something you guys can look at moving forward, whether it's your opponent in the primary or the person over on the Democrat side, whatever goes on moving forward, I'm hoping that we can start to structure the commissioners' meetings a little bit different. I really have an issue, a problem with saying that citizens have to arrive at I think the way you guys do it at the council is fantastic. If we could move the way that you guys deal with public concerns, public comments at the council, if we could have some of those same rules and structures in the commissioner's office right now, in order to speak, you have to arrive before the meeting starts. And the meetings being at 9 o'clock in the morning, that's really just not conducive to really a lot of people. If you're getting your children to school, if maybe you went to work beforehand and you've taken off time and then you're going to the meeting or whatnot, you arrive there 2 minutes after the meeting is gavelled into session, and now you have to sit there to find out you can't speak until you got to show up 2 weeks. That's just a disservice to the public. I'm also very concerned, and I know there's a lot of pushback. I know the Muncie City Council, we went through this here just recently. There was a whole push to try to not allow the citizens to speak before the votes that Muncie City has done forever. I think there's been a couple really big votes here lately, specifically the last couple of weeks through the cigar situation and a couple of other things going on in the county that I feel like the council or the commissioners specifically are voting on these really big situations that there's not really on the record public comment before the vote is taking place. And this is something that I've talked to Commissioner Brand about. And the answer I was given is Brand is one of 3 commissioners. The other 2, he's the odd man out. So I'm hoping in this next election cycle that he won't be the odd man out. Whoever is in that position, I think something needs to change there. So
yeah. So I mean, well, I don't want to jinx anything, but
yeah, sure.
Assuming everything goes positively, I'm perfectly fine with that.
Okay.
So, Commissioner Brand, particularly under current situation, yeah, he's still feeling his way around to some degree and having to work under the purview of what was already established. But again, no issues there. I mean, I am a believer in Robert's Rule of Order and making sure that people are there to be productive and not, and not go off on tangents that aren't relative to the business. But all things considered, I think it's we would be looking to make sure that we get those notices out. To your point about like the cigar thing, the ordinance was presented. I know that Commissioner Brand anyway met with multiple people. I heard similar, sentiments, mostly positive, 99% positive. And so if people aren't there to communicate it on the record, I get it. It looks like people aren't, but they're not there communicating on the record, right? The only people that showed up are the opponents to the thing. So, and that seems to be the case, right?
Yep.
In a lot of times. So, I get it about the being able to speak, and you're right. The council is willing to just, anybody who shows up who wants to say something productive, and then please do. So, we're more than willing to have that. I mean, that's part of the communication thing that I was telling you about. I think it's unfortunately that there's not enough people to that
absolutely
up,
on many issues, and there really should be, and that's something that I definitely push for. And I to your point, I definitely get, because it, just like you said, just because they're not speaking on the record doesn't mean they're not speaking. I think I've found the issue with that is talking one-on-one with any specific candidate or any specific public servant. Obviously, one-on-one talking to somebody, it's not the same thing as being on the record. You know what I mean? I get what you're saying, that people are, in that situation, I was definitely in favor of the cigar situation. So, I didn't find myself as an opponent to that, but I just, I'm very adamant about things being able to be on the record. That way it's locked in there, and there's no being able to go back and say, oh, that didn't happen, that wasn't said. It's kind of makes it safe for everybody. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So
let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
In the situation with the cigar bar, what would have worked better, and people would have felt more like they would have had another more voice or something? You first read an ordinance, you get a second reading on the ordinance. Like what's the?
Well, I guess I just mean so something that I've always kind of wished that one of the things that's always been weird for years and years, even when Muncie was in the craziest, darkest times of corruption. One of the things that I've always felt is the Muncie City Council does things right from the standpoint of allowing citizens to feel heard. So they allow them to speak to the folks that are voting when the ordinance is presented, when the ordinance is introduced. Then on the second reading, they're allowed to speak before the vote. Because what happens is when someone comes to speak and the vote is taken, whether you voted in favor, and it remove the cigar bar, just whatever the situation is, solar or a tax abatement or whatever the deal is, restructuring the 32-hour work week, whatever the situation is, if someone's coming to speak after the vote's taken, whether it passed or failed, it really doesn't do anything to change any, it don't matter if it changes your mind or not, you've already voted. So that's just something that I guess that's just something that I've always pushed for, is the citizenry being able to speak before a vote is taken. So I guess that's where I am. That's what I mean.
Totally fair. You know
what I mean?
And I don't know what the rules are or whatever.
Sure.
I don't even know, to be honest.
Right.
But happy to have that discussion.
Sure, absolutely. I think the rules are whatever the body makes.
It may be so. It may be so. And again,
Right,
precedence is everything, right? Seemingly,
yeah,
with not just for us, but for others too. So, I got no problems being a change agent for things like that. No,
sure,
and we'll be able to do some of that. And again, not to totally buck the system, but to your point, I don't know everything. I don't know, a
sure.
lot of things. And so when it comes to things, I mean, the Scar bar is a terrible example, really, because it's a very uncomplex issue, right? It's pretty straightforward. But
Yeah,
there's a lot of things that do come before the commissioners that are complex problems to have to consider and perhaps make a resolution or an ordinance about. And legally speaking, there's a lot of times I'm not sure what the actual answer is. So we'd love to hear everybody's feedback. I welcome it, and that's something we would consider. I would consider if I get in.
very good. All right. Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate your time. If you, I want to let everyone know that you do have a campaign Facebook page. There you go. We put it up on the scoops. My bad, Kate. Sorry. There that is. If folks want to check that out or ask follow-up questions or whatever. And depending on how the election goes, you're obviously welcome back here in the fall or any other time you have something that you want to put out. So I appreciate it. And
Appreciate you having me. And
all right.
Early voting starting. Let's get everybody out there.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chris.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Mr. Matt Kantz, and we tried to stick to the issues here. I know that there are people who have other questions and things that they are trying to ask. I'm going to take the same road that I've stayed on throughout the remainder of this. If there are issues that affect, if there are personal issues that affect a candidate in a way in which it's bleeding over into the public life, that's something that I would focus on. But we just do our very best to stay above the personal fray here, and that's just something that we've done. We don't censor people. We've not censored anybody from asking questions. Everybody's questions have been up, and I'm perfectly okay with that. Kate's been putting them up there. He did speak to the nuclear situation a little bit earlier. I don't know if you were here from the beginning of that. But he did speak a little bit to that just a bit. I also do want to say that the other situation, let me see, there was another question. Oh, yeah, I want to go back up here to this question because this has actually come up. This is the second time, and I don't know. I know that when Dave asked this question, I don't know if he's still here, and I hope that he is. Dave Wagner ask specifically. Dave said, Delaware County Sheriff's Department was also told to stay out of small towns unless called for. Oh, no, he also said, Dave Wagner said, I want to know why Delaware County Sheriff's Department is being told to stay and not take calls in the city of Muncie. And I think I answered this question, but I think you might have been gone. And so I want to let you know, first and foremost, Jeff Stanley does not have an opponent in the primary. So Stanley will not be appearing in this candidate interview because he doesn't have an opponent. He's made it on, no matter what happens in May, he's made it on to November. So we will be talking to Stanley in November. That being said, I do think that is a serious question. It's a good question. I have reached out and I'm trying to get you an answer on that. And if I can get Stanley to provide a statement or maybe get Stanley to come on long enough to speak to that, I will. The answer that I gave when you came on and you had asked that at some point, I had said this. So I remember when you first came to me and asked that, and I will tell you as a former law enforcement officer, I can tell you that every so often, this is something that is told to the men and women on the Delaware County Sheriff's Department, because while the city of Muncie, as well as all of the small towns, find themselves in the city of Muncie, or excuse me, in Delaware County, city of Muncie and the small towns find themselves in Delaware County, the true purpose of the Sheriff's Department is to take calls for service, to patrol, and to do those things in the unincorporated areas of the county. So, like, for example, we have a Muncie City Police Department that takes calls for service inside the City of Muncie. We have a Daleville Police Department that takes calls for service inside the small town of Daleville. You know, Yorktown, Eaton, Albany, they all have a police department. And what happens periodically is departments, specifically the Delaware County Sheriff's Department, will find that periodically their guys and gals, the patrol officers, the patrol deputies, start finding themselves doing more in the city of Muncie and not being out in Delaware County. And so if you've got a bunch of deputies that are signing on, calling on duty, and they are, you know, hanging out at Walnut and Jackson and taking calls for service, jumping the city's calls or pulling cars over in the city, and then you get a call at Black Cemetery Road and it's taking 10 or 15 minutes to run even licensed sirens, that's not providing the service to the people of the county they're supposed to be. So you're telling me if a call comes out and you are a block away, you should take it. So you're telling me if a call comes out and you are a block away, should you take it if it's in the city or let it go? I guess it depends on what that call is. And I mean, I'll just put it to you in this point of view. First off, I'm not Stanley. I'm not Tony Skinner, the sheriff. I haven't given anybody this order. I'm just telling you this from a former law enforcement officer. The answer to that is, I guess it depends on what the call is. If you are a county deputy and you have left, let's say for the sake of argument, you're a county deputy who just left the county building. You went up to the county building to take a report at the assessor's office for some reason. Someone came in and stole the purse of a lady inside the assessor's office, and you went up there and you've taken a report in the assessor's office, and you're leaving, and a call comes in to the city of Muncie 2 blocks away from there. If that's an armed robbery, yeah, they are going to absolutely 100% answer that call for service. No question. Stanley's not going to tell them not to. The sheriff's not going to tell them not to. They will take that call. If it's a domestic battery, that is a violent domestic battery, the sheriff's department's going to jump on that. If a call comes in that there is a theft of a bicycle from a shed, that was the bicycle or the motorcycle, say a motorcycle was in a shed and somebody cut the lock off the shed sometime overnight and stole the motorcycle sometime 6 hours, 8 hours ago. Last time you saw it was last night at 11 a.m. and it's 9 a.m. No, they're going to let that call go. That call will not go to the county, and the county shouldn't answer that. That county. When we're saying that's correct, they're not taking any calls in the city at all. I got to be honest. I got to push back against that. I just don't. I would have to see some kind of proof of that rather than just hearing somebody say that, because if there is a call for a serious violent crime or like a bank robbery or a serious domestic, I don't know anybody. I don't know any sheriff's deputy that would pass that by. I'm not saying, listen, I'll get to the bottom of this for you. I'll find out why they said that. I'm just letting you know what I think their answer is going to be. And I will let them know what you've said here. But we're talking serious calls. You don't have to specifically tell me, but can you tell me what one of those serious calls is? I mean, can you provide, are we talking about a rape, an overdose, or are we talking about, what are we talking about? Because that would be a problem. And, I'll put it to you this way. It will be easy to prove if there's been a deputy if there's been any police officer that's been a block away from a serious call, a break-in. So you're telling me that there's been an issue where somebody has called and reported someone is currently actively breaking into their house, and a deputy has been a block away or 2 blocks away or 3 blocks away and has not answered the call for service. Because that's easy to prove. You can easily get the GPS on their units, and you can find out, and that would be a serious problem. That would be a serious problem, because I don't sit around and listen to the scanner. As a former police officer, there's nothing more I hate more than listening to radio traffic, to be perfectly honest with you. But there's enough people out there that do, like right here, Troy said, they take calls in Muncie. I hear it every day. So I'm just letting you know, I have put that out there. I am working on getting you an answer. I did not ask Matt Kantz that, because I will tell you this. Matt Kantz has no authority over that as a sitting city council or county councilor, nor would he have authority over that as the commissioner. So he could say, yes, I don't like that. No, I don't like that. Yes, I do like it. And none of it would matter, because the only person that has something to do with that would be the sheriff's department, the sheriff, the chief deputy, and so on. So I'm in the promise. I promise you, we will get that figured out, and we will bring you that answer. So I have not forgot you. I'm still working on it. You asked it the other day. Oh, here we are. Jeff Stanley is answering the question here. Here we go. Sorry. Mr. Wagner, this is false information, and this order has never been directed to our deputies. Deputies will always respond to any officer that is requesting assistance or serious call for assistance. Citizens in the unincorporated areas of Delaware County require service, and we will provide that. So, Jeff, let me just ask you, if you're here really quickly, let me ask you this. What I would assume is, I know there's been times in the past where either the deputies as a whole, or maybe certain deputies, have been told by the rank and file supervisors, sergeants, lieutenants, captains, whatnot, hey, you need to stay out in the county and answer your calls for service, if you're the north car or the south car or whatever. I know there's been times that's happened, okay? But I'm assuming that what this is coming from is that, the deputies need to answer calls for service and patrol in the unincorporated areas of the county. But I just want to make sure that we are 100% correct. If there's a call for service and a deputy is somewhere in the city of Muncie, and it's a serious call, an armed robbery, a break-in in progress, an overdose where somebody's actively dying, overdosing, and a deputy is nearby and can take that call, they are allowed to take that call, correct? I just want to make sure. And then, so, well, I tell you what, Dave, because having a back and forth on social media doesn't really work. I tell you what, I will send you my phone number. Okay, Jeff just said correct. I'll send you my number, Dave. I'll text that to you after the show. And if you can give me some information, we can pull the information and look and find out what was going on at that time and see what's going on. Here's what I don't want to happen. I don't want there to be a misunderstanding, and from a misunderstanding, something to be thought because there's a misunderstanding. Because I know a lot of the men and women who are deputies, and if it's okay, let's say somebody has an issue with Jeff Stanley. I happen to be friendly with Jeff Stanley. I don't have an issue with Jeff. I don't have an issue with David Williams, the Democrat candidate. I think they're both great law enforcement officers, and I can respect both of them. That being said, I just find it hard to believe that this order would be given and that any deputy or any police officer would not take a call for service. Specifically here in Delaware County, I think the mutual aid agreements between the agencies, they're all real friendly with each other, and I think they've provided assistance. I mean, I can think back to the shooting that occurred during the Muncie homecoming weekend when there was the serious shooting and it turned into just an absolute melee and there were people at the hospital. All the Yorktown, Eaton, Albany, Daleville, Selma, everybody came in to help Muncie. The sheriff's department did. People from Newcastle were coming. People from Hartford City were coming. I just really think that there is, I know a lot of these people, and I think that a lot of these people are friends with each other. And I have a hard time believing that they wouldn't be helping one another. So that's that. But I will keep looking into it, and I'll do whatever I can to help clear this up or to figure out what's going on one way or another. So I appreciate Jeff for answering. I didn't know that Jeff was on. I'm glad that he answered. And we'll see what goes on. I do want to make sure, I don't know if Jeff is still here, but we did have this comment, and I want to make sure that Jeff was aware of this. Total Madness did say, serious question, does Mr. Stanley know how hot he is? I have got to say that we here at the Political Spotlight, at least 2/3 of us, do not concur with that statement. I cannot answer for producer Kate, but I would say
I'm
Brandon
married.
and I.
My husband's way hotter than everybody.
Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. So we do not concur here at the Political Spotlight, but there you go. Total Madness got the very serious question. David, I will do that, and I will send you a message, and we will look into it. All right, moving on to the other news of the day. EJAC, stay here because I do want to answer your statement that you made, your question. But before we do that, looky, the Political Spotlight was right yet again. Even when people think that I'm wrong, I am proven right. Day after day after day. It really, really, really does get tiring. I'll be honest. So way back, last week, one week ago, I put out a statement on social media stating, well, let me go back and find that just so we don't say anything wrong. I don't think that we would, but just to make sure that we are being fair, all the way back on April 8th, I made a post that read as follows. April 9th. I stand corrected. See, I was wrong. See, right there, I was bragging. I'm starting to hear some concerning information about the City of Muncie Parks Department. The State Board of Accounts recently met with Mayor Ridenour and a few others to review the State Board of Accounts report, which will be available to the public soon. That was said back on April 9th by the Political Spotlight right here. I said, I've reached out to the mayor's office for a statement this afternoon, but I haven't heard back yet. I will update if or when I hear back and I have more information. Well, lo and behold, I didn't ever hear anything back. Then I got a little bit more information from sources at the start of this week. And on April 13th, which was Monday, I made a post that read as follows. It comes as no surprise to those of us here at the Political Spotlight that the City of Muncie fired Nikki Erickson from the Parks Board, from the Parks Department. She was a secretary. Around the time the city had its hush-hush meeting with the Indiana State Board of Accounts. Look for an awful, someone else's words, not mine, look for an awful SBOA report to hit sometime. And this is part that I got wrong. I said the end of May, beginning of June 2026. Well, that was wrong. Sources from both the SBOA and inside City Hall are telling us that it's looking rather ugly for the Muncie Parks Department. I wouldn't be surprised if we even hear talk of some ghosts of Muncie Parks past before it's all said and done. That said, it's all quiet on the ride and hour front because, of course, the administration won't say anything until after the fact. Why would they ever want to get in front of something when they can look the other way and pretend nothing is happening? Time will tell. What?
You're frozen.
Can you not hear me?
Oh, no, we can hear you just fine. You're just a screenshot right now, not an actual person. There you go.
I'm moving. Yeah, I think it's because I was off screen. I don't know why that happened there. That was weird. Okay, let me figure out where I was here. Let me go back. Okay. Okay. That said, it's all quiet on the ride and hour front because, of course, the administration won't say anything until after the fact. Why would they ever want to get in front of something when they can look the other way and pretend nothing is happening? Time will tell. When it does, on this one, you'll probably hear, and I told you so, for all of the crap everybody tried to make me eat a few years ago. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the City of Muncie decided to respond today. They decided to finally make a statement, a public statement on this issue today, and we have it here for everybody to see in all of its glory. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, from the City of Muncie for immediate release, April 16th, 2026, statement on special investigation report of the Parks and Recreation Department. The City of Muncie, yes?
You're frozen again.
Yeah, but you guys can hear me, right?
Yes.
All right, I don't care about the video.
All right.
Yeah, it works. As long as you can hear me, I don't care what it looked like. But yeah, there we go. It's unfroze. Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, as long as they can hear me, that's all that matters. Okay, here. Yeah, you can see it very well, too. That's good. I love it. See, this is work. This is great. The ass kissing was gross. The City of Muncie is responding to the special investigation report issued by the Indiana State Board of Accounts, SBO, regarding operations within the Muncie Parks and Recreation Department. This investigation originated in 2022 when the city leadership identified concerns related to financial processes and immediately took action by notifying the appropriate authorities. Remember all the way back then when we had 2 people that were put off on unpaid leave? All right, remember that? The city fully cooperated with both the Indiana State Board of Accounts at that time and the Indiana State Police throughout the course of the investigation. As a result, the city's internal review and subsequent findings, one employee was terminated in December of 2024. Well, let me make it clear for you. No, that's not exactly what happened. What happened is we found out that the employees that were suspended were George Foley and Nikki Erickson. Now, I don't know Nikki Erickson. I wouldn't know her if she walked up to me. I wouldn't know her if she walked through the door right now, okay? I know George Foley because I'd seen him in council meetings, and I knew of him. I just knew of him being around Muncie and Delaware County, okay? I reported that George Foley and Nikki Erickson were on suspension because that's who was on suspension. It had nothing to do with these individuals being people of color or not of color. I didn't give a shit about that in any way. But people immediately started in with the fact that I was racist because I was talking about these people being suspended. And I think what happened was reports came in, and the city under Dan Ridenour was afraid of being labeled a racist too. So everybody was brought back to work and nobody lost their job. Everybody came back to work and started working hunky-dory. I think the investigation the suspension lasted around 3 months. So they were suspended for 3 months, but then they were brought back. Well, let me tell you, you don't get from any part of 2022, let's just say December 31st of 2022, if you add 3 months to December 31st of 2022, you don't get to December of 2024. That just doesn't happen. So what that means is they were brought back after about a 3-month investigation, and they were permitted to work for the remainder of 2022. They were permitted to work for the remainder of 2023, and they were permitted to work for the majority of 2024. And in December of 2024, George Foley was then terminated. Okay? Now, it might have had something to do with the State Board of Investigation. I was told at the time it was another situation. All right? Now we move on. A second employee has since been terminated subsequent with the release of this report. That's Nikki Erickson. Okay? The report outlines a series of deficiencies in internal controls, okay, and financial procedures spanning multiple years. While the action identified involve individual conduct, the city recognizes the importance of addressing the broader operation issues highlighted in the report. Since the initiation of the investigation, steps have been taken to strengthen oversight, improve financial tracking procedures, and ensure greater accountability within the department. Mayor Dan Ridenour emphasized the city's commitment to transparency and responsible governance, stating, "From the moment concerns were identified, we acted swiftly and responsibly. Protecting taxpayer dollars and maintaining public trust will always be a top priority for this administration."
That's the most hilarious line in this entire thing.
Absolutely. It's nonsensical because this happened in 2022. It happened in 2022, and they fired Foley in December of 2024. So no, that's nuts. What happened between the time that Foley was brought back and December of 2024? And then what happened between December of 2024, or moreover, the time they were brought back in 2022, and this last couple of weeks when Nikki was fired? Okay. The City of Muncie extends its sincerest appreciation to the Indiana State Police and the Indiana State Board of Accounts for their diligence, professionalism, thorough work in conducting this investigation. Indiana State Police has yet to conclude the portion of investigation. Any findings will be submitted to the Delaware County Prosecutor for review. City officials remain committed to learning from this process and continuing to improve internal controls, policies, and procedures across all departments. The city will also continue to cooperate with any additional actions and recommendations resulting from this report. The full report will be available on the State Board of Accounts website within 2 business days. So we will have a copy of that report. We will bring that report to you, and you will be able to see that here. We'll talk about it and bring all that information to you. But all I want to tell you is that whole bottom part of them telling everyone that this somehow results in the city being the good guy here. No, the city didn't know what the hell they were doing. That's what that bottom part has to tell you. Okay. The city didn't have a clue what they were doing. And then and I will contend that the city specifically tried to push this off as far as it could, and only when I started pushing them for statements did they craft this nonsense that the communications director, Amber Green, put out today. Just FYI. Yeah, that's right, Kate. Absolutely. The mayor's the hero. Yeah, just absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. So we'll talk about it when we come out. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, now it's time to talk really quickly about Randy Howard. Randy Howard filed another fake tort claim today. This is another tort claim that he didn't file through the proper channels. It's complete bullshit. And my head is killing me. Listen, we're not going to talk about it here. Let me tell you. He filed another ridiculous tort claim. We will talk about it tomorrow. I've got to get off here and figure out what the hell is going on with the equipment and also deal with my head. So we will deal with Randy Howard tomorrow. Tune back in tomorrow. We're normally not here on Fridays, but we have another candidate interview tomorrow. I think the candidate interview tomorrow is actually for someone from Henry County, so it'll make sense to talk about Henry County stuff. We will talk about that tomorrow. I will try to battle the headache, and we will get that taken care of and get this little gremlin taken care of as well. You guys take care. Have a good evening. God bless each and every one of you, and we will see you back here tomorrow. Good night and goodbye.